Congratulations to the New York Islanders, who tonight earned the historic honor of becoming the first team ever shut out by the Seattle Kraken. What's cracking, everybody, and welcome back to Kraken R&R, where the Seattle Kraken do finally get that first ever team shutout in franchise history with a 3-0 win over the New York Islanders in New York. And it's a win for the Kraken that now finishes off this East Coast road trip right before the All-Star break with a record of 2-2. So a pretty good road trip, all things considered, even if there is a little bit of a feeling that they could have gotten a little bit more out of those two games in the middle where they put up a good fight, but ultimately fall short in both of those. Still though, a good road trip that is bookended with not just wins, but historic wins for this franchise, with that first ever overtime win to start things out in Pittsburgh, and now on the other end, that first ever franchise shutout in New York against the Islanders. And not only was it the first ever shutout in franchise history, but it was also their first ever win while we were streaming a game on the channel, so yeah, all sorts of firsts. Which, by the way, if you did join for the stream, again, thank you all very much for joining for that. And if you weren't able to join or haven't joined one yet, don't worry, I'm gonna try to be better about giving a little bit more prior notice for streams in the future. It's a work in progress, but we'll get there. That aside though, it is maybe a shutout that we should have seen coming. I mean, for one, Grubauer has definitely been playing a lot better over the last month or so, and certainly in a much more consistent manner than he had up until this point in the season. And on top of that, the Islanders, well, it's not a team that scores a whole lot of points, and partly that's by design, but not quite as few as they've been scoring to this point in the season. Speaking of which, it was also Eberle's return to the island, and the team that he was taken from in the expansion draft after being their leading scoring winger last year. So yeah, I think if you ask them now with the scoring struggles they've had in getting the puck into the net, they'd probably say that they regret exposing him in the expansion draft, especially considering he's had a pretty good season for the Kraken and is also their all-star representative. Of course, that all having been said, it still was the second game of a back-to-back, and while the Islanders were also on the second game of a back-to-back, they did at least play both games in the same building, while the Kraken had to bus in from Boston. So, you know, it's not like everything was going in the Kraken favor coming into this game as far as looking for that win and potential shutout. Including the fact that earlier in the day, the Kraken finally do put Alexiak on IR, after he's spent the last couple of weeks being listed as day-to-day and being ultimately scratched from every lineup, first with that non-COVID related illness, and then the lower body injury. So especially with now a week off with the All-Star break, it makes sense that they're just going to give him a little bit of extra time to hopefully heal up and get back to the team, hopefully again sometime in the middle of February. His absence though does have the upside of giving the Fleury brothers another chance to play together, again being the third pair defense in this game for the Kraken. And honestly, I thought they looked pretty good out there tonight, especially getting a little bit more playing time, probably partially because of the back-to-back and getting some guys that played more last night a little bit more rest. But both Fleury brothers definitely stepped up, and Kale, with it just being his second game, definitely made a bit of a difference in this one with a couple of nice passes that led to shots. Those shots didn't lead to goals, but he still did stand out at least a little bit, and in a good way. Meanwhile, his brother Hayden definitely was not afraid to throw his body around in this game with 6 hits in the game, which is a fair amount for one game, and by far the most on the team and most in the game from a single player. As far as the game as a whole, it was a pretty back and forth game, pretty much all night long, though early on in the game, the Kraken were at least getting the vast majority, or to be perfectly honest, for the first few minutes, all of the chances on goal as they get the first 4 shots off, while although the Islanders are getting the puck out of the zone pretty much after every Kraken shot, the Kraken aren't allowing anything at their end of the ice, and any chance the Islanders do have with a look to the net, everything's getting blocked in front or tipped wide as the Islanders really can't get much of anything going early. Regardless though, nothing goes into the net on either side, even through a Kraken power play that, well, I mean, it really doesn't look all that different from the power play we've seen over the last couple of weeks now as it comes up empty, and we get to the end of a scoreless first period where the Kraken do have the shot advantage 11-5, but there really haven't been a ton of great scoring chances at either end of the ice, as both teams are making it difficult to get through the neutral zone, and even more difficult to get good scoring chances off. The Islanders are keeping all the Kraken shots pretty much around the outside, making it easy on Varlamov to see them and make the saves, while the Kraken, although they are allowing the Islanders to get a few more shots off from the slot and in front of the net, they are heavily contesting all of those and not letting any shot get off cleanly, so Grubauer really isn't having a terribly tough time making the saves either. Plus, I mean, at the end of the first period, he's only had to make 5 of them anyway. Early in the second, the Kraken do get a second crack on the power play, and while, at least from a keeping the puck in the zone perspective, this power play does go considerably better, Seattle continues to do this slow passing the puck around the outside thing that they've gotten back into a bad habit of doing on the power play, not going for those quick passing plays that we saw Boston do successfully and that we saw the Kraken do successfully a couple weeks ago when the power play was actually scoring goals. Instead, they're just passing it from man to man, every guy handling it a couple of times, looking for a perfect shot, eventually giving it up and passing it back to someone else who does the same thing, rinse and repeat, but basically not keeping the Islanders on their toes as Varlamov and the entire defense is able to reposition every time the puck gets to a new guy for Seattle. So, inevitably, 2 minutes later, the Kraken power play is killed off successfully by the Islanders, and now for Seattle, with these being the only 2 chances they would get in this game, power play over the last 9 games is just 2 for 33. Unlike the power play last night against the Bruins though, this time, instead of the Kraken holding the zone off the failed power play, right back the other way, the Islanders get their best scoring chance of the game so far to this point, and while it doesn't end up in the back of the net, it does end in a roughing call on Dunn as the guy who had the puck ends up going into the net pretty hard. As we see it on replay, it does look like a pretty soft call as the guy kind of just falls to the ice near Dunn, and more than anything, he's trying to prevent him from going hard into the net. Instead, it's seen as Dunn taking him to the ice, and Dunn gets the roughing call, which, yeah, I mean, on replay, it's just straight up a bad call, but I can kind of see what the ref was seeing live action, and with minors, they don't review them, so it's just a tough break here. And over the next 2 minutes, even though this Islanders power play is killed off successfully, obviously by Seattle, since, as we talked about, this is a shutout for the Kraken, they do put on a bit of a clinic showing the Kraken what a power play should look like, moving the puck quickly from stick to stick, tape to tape passing, not thinking too long, and occasionally taking a shot off on goal. Even if it isn't the highest chance shot, they're at least looking for rebounds and second chances out in front of the net. Sure, they don't end up getting any, and the Kraken are doing a good job defensively killing off this power play by getting sticks to pucks and blocking shots before they get to the net, but again, by the end of it, it does have to be said that while both power plays, the Kraken one right before this and now this Islanders power play, both end up coming unsuccessful, so the same outcome, the Islanders power play did have a very different feel to it than the Kraken one with that puck movement, and a feeling like they had a pretty good chance of scoring on it. The Kraken just are able to do a good job killing it, where with the Kraken power play, it really never felt like the Islanders were in much danger of letting up a goal, even though Seattle spent a lot of time in their end of the ice. From there, the rest of the second period is honestly quite a bit like the first in that it's a very back and forth game with maybe the slight edge going to Seattle. They do get more shots off on goal by a little bit, but again, the scoring chances, there's just not a lot of high danger chances being given up by either team. Again, the Islanders are not giving Seattle any space in the offensive zone and keeping them pretty much entirely to the outside. Meanwhile, at the Kraken end of the ice, well, the Islanders maybe have a little bit more space and are able to get off a little bit more open shots. Seattle is blocking pretty much everything before it gets to the net, getting sticks on pucks or getting their body in the way if nothing else. So just not a lot is getting to Grubauer, and when they do get to Grubauer, he's able to come up with the saves. The third period, though, really from right out of the gate has a very different feel to it, as neither team seems terribly eager to just have this game go 0-0 into overtime, which I guess with both of them being on the second half of a back-to-back and the all-star break waiting for them on the other side, does make some sense. But defensively, things have definitely opened up a bit at either end, with the puck getting much quicker through the neutral zone and cleaner through the neutral zone, and there are some more high danger chances getting off on both nets at either end of the ice. First from the Islanders, and then the Kraken get a couple of chances back the other way. Both teams, though, are able to survive the early pressure at either end of the ice with the help of their goaltenders, without a goal going in, and the game's still tied at 0. right up until a somewhat unassuming dump in into the Islanders zone sees Johansson go in on a very good forecheck to prevent the Islander defense from getting to it cleanly. The puck squirts along the boards after a little bit, where Eberle's the next one to it, fending off another Islander defenseman, eventually able to shovel a pass out from behind the goal to McCann, who's waiting, basically standing right along the goal line. He fires off a shot from a very tight angle, but he scores! McCann's shot goes off of Varlamov's shoulder and into the back of the net to give the Kraken that ever-important 1-0 lead. And again, a game that's been played very strong defensively all night long. For Varlamov, he just is unable to get his head around in time as he was looking over his right shoulder at the play behind the net. The pass goes, again, behind the net out to McCann, and Varlamov can't get his head around in time to get his shoulder to the opposite post before McCann is able to bounce it off of him and into the net. So now, with the 1-0 lead, which, even though the Kraken were able to come back in the last couple of games, it does feel good to be the team that scores first for the first time in a little while. And again, with this game and the way it's been going, that could be important. And as long as the Kraken can prevent one of these weird bounces off of a skate or a defenseman or something like that from going into the net, which has kind of been a problem all season long, this is one they might be able to hang on and win and get that first ever shutout, even if it probably will get a little bit stressful with that 1-goal lead when inevitably the goalie does get pulled at the end of the game. Fortunately though, at least as far as getting the win is concerned, Seattle isn't going to have to sweat out potentially letting one goal in late in whatever way that ends up happening, as just a little bit after this first goal goes in, the Kraken make it a 2-0 lead as Dunn finally finds some open ice in the offensive zone and just decides to kind of cruise up towards the net with the puck on his backhand and eventually just shoots at the goal and it goes in. Honestly, it's a bit of an unassuming shot from Dunn, who really doesn't get a whole lot on the backhanded shot, and a bit of a soft goal that Varlamov lets in, who really, I think more than anything else, was just caught off guard by the shot itself. And yeah, he was screened a little bit by Gord in front of him, so I'm sure that played a role as well. But Varlamov also is a bit out of position here, where I think you'd like to see him a little bit closer to the post, as there's a decent gap for Dunn to shoot at on that near side. Regardless of how it happened though, Seattle now has a 2-goal lead, again in a game where a 2-goal lead does feel pretty safe and like there's a good chance that the Kraken are going to be able to come out with a win in this one. I know we've seen the Kraken fall apart in third periods before and give up leads in the third period, but this game definitely feels different as the defense has been very strong all game long, not allowing odd man rushes hardly at all. In fact, I can really only remember one odd man rush the Kraken let up all night. So yeah, it's not like this is coming from a place of just it was 0-0 for a while, so now that it's 2-0, Seattle's just not going to let a goal in. It really was a lot more to do with the confidence in the defense and the goaltending behind that defense that Seattle had been getting up until this point about halfway through the third. Happily, at least for this game, that confidence was not misplaced, as for the vast majority of this game and pretty much the entirety of the rest of the 5-on-5 play, the Kraken do control play, really building off of that momentum that they built with those 2 goals, and even getting a couple of chances to make it 3-0 while it's still 5-on-5. Sheahan in particular having one very good scoring opportunity with a gap and some empty net to shoot at, but he just couldn't get the puck off of his stick in time to get it into that gap that he was afforded. So the Islanders escape 5-on-5 play, at least without giving up the third goal. And eventually, after trying for quite a while, they are able to pull Varlamov with less than 2 minutes left. Honestly, I thought they were trying to get him pulled right around 3 minutes, but Seattle was able to hold the offensive zone for a good portion of time, keeping Varlamov pinned in the net, so that the Islanders can't get that extra man advantage until the 1:55 mark. Still though, nothing the Islanders try is enough to get through the Seattle defense or get anything past Grubauer, who by the end of the night stops all 19 shots that make it to him. And eventually, Seattle does find the empty net with 1.5 seconds left in the game. It's Appleton for his 5th of the season, and the Kraken win 3-0 again for that first ever shutout in franchise history. When asked about it after the game, Grubauer did say that he was kind of expecting, especially during that last push by the Islanders, that somehow a puck would end up bouncing off of a skate or one of the defensemen, and in some way take a lucky hop and into the net behind him, or I guess for him, unlucky hop and into the net, because, well, I mean, that's just kind of how the season has gone for the Kraken. Whether things are going well for them or poorly, pretty consistently, they have had a lot of these weird bad hops somehow end up in the back of the net with not a whole lot Grubauer can do about it. So yeah, that's something that will eventually end up in your head and you will think about when those situations start coming up. Fortunately, obviously in this game, that doesn't end up being the case. And on top of that, defensively, the Kraken play one of their best games of the season. It's a fantastic defensive performance from start to finish, all 60 minutes of it. As again, they continued to do all game long a very good job of getting in front of pretty much every shot the Islanders tried to get. Not giving the Islanders a ton of space, but again, when they did get that space, making sure to not let clean shots off on net. Like I said earlier, I can only remember the Kraken letting up one odd man chance for the Islanders. It was a 3-on-2 chance for them, I think in the first period, maybe early second, with Barzal being part of it, that doesn't even end up leading to a shot on goal, as the second pass doesn't end up connecting, so Seattle gets a bit lucky that the Islanders kind of flubbed that one. Still, just one on-man chance over the course of a game is a massive improvement over what we had seen, especially early on in the season. I guess I can't think of one more kind of odd-man chance. There was one point in the game where the Islanders had a chance for a 4-on-2 against the Kraken, but weirdly, as they got to the blue line, two of those Islanders players that were going to be a part of the 4-on-2 just kind of dipped and went to the bench for a change, which led to just a 2-on-2 that the Kraken were able to easily defend. So yeah, I mean, the Kraken will take that absolutely. Could be part of the reason the Islanders are having some offensive issues, not taking advantage of those chances they're given, but still works out for the Kraken in this game. And as does usually end up being the case in shutouts, the Kraken get all 3 stars of the game. McCann gets the first star with a goal and an assist in this one. Dunn the second star with the second 5-on-5 goal. And of course, the third star, which could have been the first star, but it makes sense considering how the defense played, is of course Grubauer with the 19 saves on 19 shots for a perfect 1,000 save percentage. A few other guys worth mentioning in this one that I thought had pretty good games. Both Johansson and Blackwell I thought had very good games. Both Fleury brothers, as we talked about, played well. Eberle obviously getting an assist in his return to the island. And Mason Appleton gets a goal and an assist in this one, so a good night for him as well. And finally, less Kraken necessarily specifically related, but I thought it was a fun touch from Root Sports that instead of interviewing a Kraken player during the first intermission, instead they interviewed Matt Barzal, who of course played for the Thunderbirds for a few years, including winning a championship for them in the WHL. So it was fun to see his take on the expansion for the So it was fun to see them ask him a few questions about Seattle getting an expansion team, how much the Islanders miss Eberle and what playing with Eberle is like, and a couple of other things. Barzal, I think he definitely misses Eberle, especially considering how that line has gone without Eberle on it. But still, he was a good sport about it, and I'm sure T-Birds fans were happy to hear from him. Silvertip fans maybe a little bit less, as all the Barzal highlights they showed were against the Silvertips, but still, a fun touch from the Root Sports crew. So, with that, I guess let me know if I missed anything down in the comment section below. I'm sure I did miss something. I wasn't able to take notes as we were doing the stream. So, again, with that, thank you for joining me in the stream if you were there. And if not, hopefully we'll catch you next time. Otherwise, let's party it up down in that comment section for a Kraken win right before the All-Star break. And more than that, another franchise first. Again, the first ever franchise shutout. We're starting to run out of some of these fun firsts, and, well, fortunately, we, I guess, got all of the bad ones out of the way early on, so we'll figure out how to have some firsts with this second half of the season, but another big one happens tonight. With that, though, I'll finally stop rambling, so if you have made it to this point, thank you very much for watching. If you like watching Kraken shutouts, go ahead and hit the like button. If you want to celebrate some more Kraken firsts and haven't already, the subscribe button can help you out with that. And until next time, sometime after the All-Star break, or actually, we'll do some stuff during the All-Star break, so don't worry about that. Anyway, be safe out there, be good to each other, and go Kraken!